Hello, I'm Brian Adamson, the Executive Director of Training here at SurfSafeVPN, and today's video series is the guide to how a VPN works. Some background before we get started talking about VPNs. We need to start with internet origins, and despite popular belief, while Al Gore has done wondrous things in raising our awareness about climate change, he did not invent the internet. It was actually done by the US military, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Before the internet, if you wanted to make a communication in a timely manner between yourself and someone else, you simply made a phone call. And so that was done. Let's use the example of making a phone call from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. When you made a phone call, it was routed through things called central hubs. Now, the US military, especially really during and after the Cold War, started to realize that if these were knocked out, let's say by an attack from Russia, and they took out a couple of these hubs, and you had military on the East Coast and the West Coast, all of a sudden they couldn't communicate with one another. So what do? Well, they had to revamp the system into setting up what we now know are routers. And routers do exactly what they say. They reroute or just route information from one place to another. So all over the country were set up routers. Now, I don't really know how many there are throughout the entire United States, so a ballpark figure, there's a ton of them. So now that we have the internet in place, this is how it works. If you want to send an email from LA to DC, let's say you are a traveling business person, a salesman, pick whatever you like, and you're trying to send information back to your home office in DC, what it does, it leaves LA and it starts to go along a certain path through these routers. Now, this is convenient, don't get me wrong. However, the internet in itself has an inherent flaw, and that is it's a public domain. It's not a private one. So since it is public, that means other people that you don't want to access this information can. They can hack into it. So let's say, again, you're sending this communication from LA to DC. Now, along these routers, let's say on router number 3, we have a little person here who is hacking that information. This is called a man-in-the-middle attack. Pretty self-explanatory. He's in the middle of you and whoever you're trying to correspond with. Now, basically, he or she can sit at this router and just steal any information that's coming through that router. All the stuff that's really going to give you a horrible headache and mess up your life. It could be the secure communication that you're trying to send that is about your company. It could be personal issues like your bank statement, your bank account, your email, password, username. They can steal all of this and make your life an absolute living nightmare. And again, since it is a public domain, this happens so often. I mean, every time you watch the nightly news, there's always a new story about people hacking into especially wireless networks and Wi-Fi, which is really dangerous, and taking people's passcodes, usernames, absolutely draining their bank account, stealing all of their sensitive information. So ultimately, we have to come up with something that blocks all this. And here at SurfSafeVPN we have, and that is our VPN service. So we still have the same sort of idea when it comes to communication, although now we do it in a secure capacity. A VPN works with something that is called a PPTP, which is a point-to-point tunneling protocol. Really, the point you want to take away from that is the tunnel, okay? So we have our secure, or our routed line, not secure, but all of a sudden, a VPN, if you hook one up, starts to create a tunnel along this same pathway. And not only does it create this tunnel, but all the data that you send through it is encrypted. It's a military grade, or really some like to use corporate grade, because a lot of times corporate security is a little bit ahead of military security. So let's take the same example. Let's say we have our little pain in the butt hacker who is again on router number 3. Now, again, he's sitting there trying to tap in, trying to hack in like he did before, not knowing that now all this information is being passed through a VPN. A VPN is very smart. It's a self-fixing an auto-detect system. So while this person here is trying to hack into the tunnel, the VPN will notice that it's being hacked and automatically shut that entire tunnel down and reroute it a different way. So our first one was going this way. All of a sudden, it will take it a completely different way through different routers all the way from our hacker before the hacker even realizes it. And let's say, worst case scenario, that a hacker actually does penetrate the tunnel, God forbid, and pulls out some data packets. It would essentially mean nothing to him due to the encryption. The example I often like to use is take your favorite book. Now, pick a page at random. Go to page 89, okay? Now take two sentences from anywhere on the page. Now, when you're looking at those two sentences, they don't mean anything because there's no context behind them. So that's what the hacker would walk away with. They would just say, well, this is nothing, and they'd move on to somebody else who doesn't have a VPN. So if you're using a VPN, you automatically have that level of security, again, where it will detect if someone is hacking, it will shut down, reroute, and so all of your secure communications, and again, would be encrypted, again, military, corporate grade, call it what you wish, it's really the same premise, same idea, as to where nobody's going to be able to hack into it and steal your information, unlike using the regular internet, which is very insecure and very dangerous. I mean, every time you're at your favorite coffee shop, if you're at your usual grocery store and they all offer Wi-Fi, if there was a savvy hacker there, all they would have to do is kind of sit and sort of blend in with everybody else and sort of go through and hack into the Wi-Fi connection at either place and just start stealing information at random. And before you know it, your bank account's empty, you can't access your email, you can't access any of the sensitive information that you wanted to keep safe. So a couple other things that go along with a VPN, and those are real-world applications. Now certainly this is, but there are other ones that go along with it. Specifically, if you've ever done a bit of traveling, there are certain countries that block Skype. Now, that is a bit of a pain, but with a VPN, you tunnel right through that. So if you're in, let's say, Dubai, business, pleasure, doesn't really matter, and you're still trying to communicate to the home office back in DC, what this will do, this will still create a secure tunnel, again, that is encrypted, so all of your information that you're sending from Dubai back to your home office at DC is still protected. There's no problem with it getting through. So you can open up Skype there, even though it's blocked in Dubai. You open up essentially another portal, or this tunnel, both phrases apply, to where you can open up certain programs that you wouldn't be allowed to otherwise, and you can get around certain ISP issues so they can't track what you're doing, because this VPN keeps no records. Absolutely not. If someone were to ask, well, John Q. Smith, what was he doing, on any given day on the internet? If you're using a VPN, we don't know, and quite frankly, we don't care, because it's really none of our business. It's your business. That's the whole point of this. Is it's making the internet your own private internet rather than you existing in this public domain where you have your data being sent out there in a very insecure sort of manner. So just another couple real-world applications for using a VPN. You want to securely go on and do online banking. Again, this can be done using a US server that we have, or some of our international servers. You can also connect to those. When you download our software, you can select servers that are in the US or outside of the US, and each has its own particular and specific application. If you're in the US and you're trying to connect to your bank, it just provides that level of security and encryption. However, if you're overseas, if you try to connect to your bank online, it will recognize the IP address from that country, wherever you are in the world, and it will say, no, we're not going to let this happen because it's coming from Hong Kong or China or South Africa or South America, that sort of thing, so it won't allow you to do it. So while you're off on a business trip or vacation or something and you need to transfer some funds because the kids are spending a little too much, what you can do, you log onto the VPN, you find the server that's in the US, and you go right to your bank without a problem in the world. You transfer that money, you're as good as gold. Another couple things. Let's see. You can access the entire internet, like I said before. There are certain block sites, again, certain programs like Skype, not a problem as far as accessing those. And really the point of this is that you're going to be secure. All of your communications are going to be private. And online, as far as anybody is concerned, you will be anonymous. And those are huge benefits today on the internet because, again, I can't stress this enough. Every time you watch, be it your local news or national news, every single night, there is a new story about people getting hacked, people's data getting stolen, their lives being ruined, all of this sort of thing. And with a VPN, all of the threats that are out there will not harm you. So I hope that this has cleared up a bit of how a VPN works, why it's beneficial to get one. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me anytime at Brian, B-R-I-A-N, @SurfSafeVPN.com. Thank you very much.